Hello, ladies and gents. I'm Becky Johnson with Sweetheart Quilt Design Company, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Today we're going to learn how to make flying geese 4 at a time without wasting any fabric. And I really like this method because it's fast and it's efficient. I've switched patterns over to this method and been able to use a lot less fabric for it too. So what I've gone ahead and done, and I have the pattern for this quilt. This is called Star Scrap Magic, and I didn't make, other than the star points, I didn't make it out of scraps, but you can make it out of scraps. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you've seen that whole quilt that I made out of scraps. So what we are doing today with the flying geese, we've gone ahead and cut for this section. The flying geese unit is right there, and we've gone ahead and cut the background at 5 1/4 inches. We're making 2 by 4 finished flying geese. Your flying geese will always be double, so 2 by 4, 3 by 6, that kind of thing. So we've cut it 5 1/4, and then I've cut 4 squares that measure 2 7/8. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a line through, a diagonal line through the center. So right here on my ruler, I've got a 45-degree line, and I'm going to line that up with the edge of the square and come in just barely that way from my points here, so that when I draw my line, it will go right through the center. Okay, so that's one. And when I draw a line like that, I don't start right at the edge of the fabric, because if you start right out here, a lot of times the fabric will just kind of bunch up. So I would start in just a little bit. You don't need to draw a line that shows a lot, just enough that you can see it. You can see I'm working on dark fabric, so I'm using a white marking pen. This is a Soline pen, and you don't want anything that's going to show through your fabric. It'll be in the seam allowance, but it's still better if it's less visible. Then what we're going to do is we're going to lay these on our square, on our big square, so that the lines line up. And you notice here that they overlap about 1/2 inch in the center. That's your double check that you cut the right size squares, but it also will become your seam allowance at the top of your flying geese unit. Now what we're going to do is, now we're going to stitch our scant 1/4 inch on either side of the line. So I'll stitch this way and turn around and go back. So we'll do that right now. And after I stitch a little ways, then I go back and make sure that that second square didn't get out of alignment. Usually I have to adjust it just a little bit. Then I'm going to just turn it around and go back the other way and cut my threads. I got a little bit of a squiggle in it, so I'm going to go back here and just straighten that out. I went into the seam allowance, so since it was on the seam allowance side, I don't actually have to go back and rip the stitches out. I can just leave them in because they won't show. Okay, then we're going to take, sorry, forgot to grab a rotary cutter. Okay, then we're going to put our ruler on the line and go ahead and cut through on that line. Next, we're going to iron this So we're going to set our seam and then just push these back. You'll notice they overlap, so if you push the one on top back first, that's easier. Okay, and then we get these nice little hearts. That's a good check for you to know you've done it right. So then what we're going to do is put these on like this, and it's very important. You can see where these meet, and there's like a W here, and your stitching needs to come out at the bottom point there of that W. If you don't come out there, then when you get done, your flying geese isn't going to be straight across the top. So it's really important that you come out right where those W's are. Now I'm just going to feed in the next one. And we'll turn it around and go back the other way. I just love making flying geese this way. It's so fast and easy. Okay, then I'll cut them apart and then we'll press them. And just like magic, oops, got that pressed a little bit backwards. You always want to press from the top, but you can do a touch up there. And there you see, we have flying geese. We have 4 made all at the same time. Got another one. There we go. Made all at the same time. Now these are 2 by 4 inch flying geese. When you measure them now, they'll measure 2.5 by 4.5, which is what you want because that gives you 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. And you'll notice that these legs of it go to the corners, but this one is your 1/4 inch in. And that's your seam allowance so that when you sew this in, you're not chopping off your point. When you sew them in the first time, it'll bring this into here, but then when you do the other sewing, it'll bring these back out to the point again. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and be sure and hit the like button and the subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.